Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching TVC Breakfast. Well, to our next leg of discussion now, and that's about the refusal of INEC to appear at its budget defense meeting of the House of Representatives. Well, the House Committee on Electoral Matters has expressed displeasure at the failure of the Independent National Electoral Commission to appear before it for the defense of the 2024 budget. The chairman of the committee, Honorable Adebayo Balogun, said at the meeting that the commission didn't communicate its inability to appear for the budget defense to them. And he said, I quote now, "It is unfortunate that INEC isn't here, and that isn't a good way to start a new administration, especially not when the president gave a marching order that he wants to maintain the January to December budget cycle." Well, we have joining us now from our Abuja studio to discuss more on this development, the chairman, House of Representatives Committee on INEC, Honorable Bayo Balogun. Thank you very much for joining us and staying on, of course, on the program this morning. All right, so let us have some more background to the position your committee had on the matter, talking about the failure of INEC to come before your committee to defend their budget. Give us some more background to this position where you expressed your displeasure at the failure of INEC to appear before you.
Morning. I think we've gone beyond that already. We've had them on Friday. The incident happened on Wednesday last week, but we convened on Friday and we had INEC, and everything has been sorted out. So, and I think your station ought to have gotten that update because the press conference actually covered the program. So it was just a breakdown in communication that actually led to the issue that didn't make them come over. There was a breakdown in communication because we are supposed to have a joint session with the Senate based on the fact that we want to minimize the time used. So we decided that some committees can do joint session with the Senate, but because we are actually oversighting just one agency, INEC, so we decided to do it separately. So when the Senate committee sent their letter, they thought the date has actually changed, that we are going to have it together. So that was what led to the misinformation. So we've had them on Friday, 2 days after, and it was a good outing, actually. So even one of the major issues we realized, even from their budget, and that was why we even found out that it was even their own interest that they came on time. Considering what they had during the 2023 budget period, I think it was about, I think they had about 50 billion naira, and thereafter the increment of 80 billion came through the supplementary budget. But unfortunately, we find out that the envelope given to them for the 2024 appropriation is actually just 40 billion naira, which cannot even cover the personnel cost, which was put at about 46 billion naira. If you look at INEC, we also find out that INEC is about one of the largest organizations we have in Nigeria today. They have offices in all the 774 local governments, including the FCT, local government. They have zonal offices, they have state offices, and they have the national office headquarters. So all this put together makes INEC offices to be about 800 in number. And after Nigerian police, I think they are the largest in terms of offices in the country. And there are some other allowances paid by INEC which is peculiar to their operation. They call it peculiar allowance. And even the last supplementary budget, that was about 10 billion naira. And looking at the provisional wage award of 35 naira per worker until the issue of the wage increment is resolved, and also the reforms that we intend to, we hope INEC will actually go and perform in their next before the next election, and especially this coming year. There are going to be a lot of reforms going on in INEC, and which we believe will actually require some funds. Continuous registration is voter registration is a continuous exercise which they will also be engaged in, and we also think that from the proposal we also saw that they intend to buy vehicles for most of their local government offices so that they will be more efficient. So these are the things that accumulated into the increment in their personnel cost and their overhead cost, and unfortunately what they had for now, well, we're still talking to the leadership of the House so that the executive can reconsider their envelope, because we don't want a situation that where INEC will be dependent on the states and local governments in their various areas for sustenance, which will be tantamount to all the job we have actually been doing, their independence. So we don't want any such dependence on the state and local government. So we must be able to ensure that funding is adequate, and especially when it comes to personnel cost, it must be adequate. So we are working on that, and we hope something positive will be done.
Yeah, Honorable, well, it's good to know that INEC had already showed this displeasure over the budgets that they have for 2024, looking at the peculiarities of INEC and how crucial they are in ensuring that we have a very good democracy in the country. Last year, they've got about something about 355 billion naira to spend in 2023, to prosecute the election, general election, and the off-cycle election. They've got off-cycle election to also come in 2024, talking about Edo and Ondo State. But how much does the House, especially your committee, pay attention to implementing this budget judiciously? The judicious use of this budget in the case your committee, taking a look. Do you really take a look at how INEC, expends this allocation to the institution and how they expend them for the benefit of this country?
Yes, we're actually doing that. We are still going to take them up on the review of the previous expenditure, the 2023 budget, and the 2022 election allocation of 2023 election, because according to the Electoral Act, election fund must be ready a year before the election. So the money spent on 2023 election was actually approved and released in 2022. So we're still going to take them up on the justification of their expenditure. We just want to conclude all the elections, at least all the obstacle elections. And I think the ones for this year has actually been concluded. So maybe sometime early next year, early next month rather, we'll be taking them on the review of whatever they've spent. So we are going to take them up on it.
Right. And of course, as you have expressed your concerns now about the budget, what INEC is to get under the budget estimates. But then the federal government has also expressed its own concern about its declining revenues. I wonder how your committee is reconciling this position of government amidst these concerns that INEC, as a key government agency, isn't getting enough, allocations in the coming year.
Yes, let's look at the budget holistically and the underlying indices. Yes, every sector is asking for more because we need to grow the economy. We need to assist the government in ensuring that every sector is grown. And in doing this too, we must look at what we have. Yes, we must cut our clothes according to our not only our size now. It's, cut your clothes according to what you actually have. So what we intend doing is to ensure that INEC or any other organization is actually giving what they deserve within the circumstance. But let's look at the budget holistically. Yes, about 27.5 trillion naira with a expected revenue of 18.32 trillion naira. And you look at the underlying factors, indices, oil prices is put at $77.9, but unfortunately, I think within the recent times, it's dropping to about $74, but I believe that's going to be a temporary thing. And if you look at the exchange rate, it's put at 750 naira, but presently, officially, it's getting to up to 900 naira. So this is actually a conservative budget in terms of these parameters being set by government. And we believe this will actually improve. After this budget, there is a high possibility of having a supplementary budget. Even if some of them are not taken care of immediately, they will be taken care of in the supplementary budget. So we're also looking at oil production of about 1.78 million barrels per day. Yes, that is also, like I said, has dropped. But by the time this actually picked up, because what the government has been doing is looking at how they can actually block some of these leakages, all these oil bunkering activities. And we have actually moved from about less than 900,000 to about 1.5 million barrels. So within some few months. So, and I'm very hopeful that we can actually get beyond 1.78 million barrels as projected. And if we are projected this for sale, we are also growing our own, the refineries, the production, local production too, of our refined oil. So there must be enough to get to the local refineries. Dangote has been supplied about 1 million barrels and is expected to utilize about 300,000 barrels daily from the 650,000 barrels requested. So, and there are other refineries, the Port Harcourt refineries, there are some many other modular refineries that are also dependent on the crude oil that must be produced. So there will be a lot of home consumption moving forward. And if we are able to get all this done, then the revenue will actually shoot up. And if you also look at the budget, if you look at the difference between the the capital and the recurrent, the total expenditure, which is about 18.6 trillion naira, and the total revenue we are expecting, which is about 18.32 trillion naira, you find that this is about a balanced budget. The only difference we now have that actually leads to this wide deficit is the loan content, the loan repayment content, which is about 8.25 trillion naira. And we are also borrowing about 7.83 trillion naira as new loan. So that means what we're actually borrowing is about what we are paying. So one of the areas the government can do to get more funds is maybe reschedule the loan repayment. We can reschedule from the 8.2 trillion naira we are actually paying now to be something about 3 trillion naira. And then we'll get off the loan that we are borrowing. So by the time we have additional 5-6 trillion naira to add to the expenditure, some of these areas will be taken care of. And we can actually stop additional borrowing. So these are some of the areas the government can actually work on to increase the revenue base, the expenditure base of the country. So, and I think with what we have on ground, there's a very good prospect for us to have a very good year in 2024 and moving forward.
It's good that you talked about how the federal government can, raise revenue in order to, address some of the attendant challenges we're facing. INEC, especially, looking at how they go about the 2024 off-cycle election and the coming, elections here and there. But speaking to your advice to the federal government on how to go about it, the World Bank also told the federal government that they should stop subsidy payment, increase petrol price to 750 naira per litre, and they also want increase in VAT taxes for SMEs. What do you see this as? Some reacted saying that this is quite insensitive. Some experts say it's quite insensitive because even in the Northeast, they already buy fuel 700 naira per litre. So do you not feel that this is some sort of quagmire for the federal government to, looking at ways to generate revenues in order to, shore up this budget implementation?
No, we do have to say, we do have to go by whatever the CBN, World Bank or the other international institution says. So IMF and so we must have our own grown situation, and we got here. We got to most of this bad situation based on some of these recommendations. So, but I think we should be talking about what we are planning now rather than bothering our head with what they are suggesting. Yes, the issue of subsidy, what they call subsidy, actually is the difference between the government rate, the dollar official rate and the black market. And that is why presently it's only NNPC that's actually importing. And that's the only way we can actually regulate the price for now. But I think within the next few weeks, we should be getting production locally. And I think one of the policy of the government now, one of the targets is before the end of next year, there should be total ban on importation, unless probably when there are maintenance or any other reasons that might warrant just an interim relief. So I think moving forward with the production, the local production, Nigeria would no longer be needing the over $60 billion we are using on importing refined products. So that will also strengthen the naira. So by the time the naira is strengthened, the difference between the official rate and the parallel rate will actually disappear. But one of the areas we now have to actually discuss is because as long as we decide to maintain the price, that means the difference between the product in Nigeria and the neighboring countries will start growing again. And this will also lead to temptation of people trying to take the products outside the country. And we will need to talk to NLC. Most of the people who are doing this bunkering are their members, the truck drivers. It is not just for them to get involved in politics when it does not matter. These are areas they need to now work for Nigerians to ensure that they monitor their workers, the truck drivers, not to engage in the smuggling of our products to the neighboring countries. No politician will be driving the trucks. No top civil servant will be driving the trucks. These are their members that will be driving these trucks. And they are the only one that can ensure that this menace stops. So as long as we are able to manage the price locally without smuggling them out, then Nigeria will be able to benefit from this regime. Because there is no way we'll let the price continue to go higher. So we have to leave the IMF of the World Bank out of this situation.
All right. Honorable Balogun, it's good that you also share your thoughts about and concerns about the budget that will be implemented in the coming year. But, let's also try to refocus the thrust of this interview. You manning the saddle, so to speak, in the committee, the House Committee on Electoral Matters. And you spoke earlier on about how there is need to restore the trust the Nigerians have placed on INEC. So amidst calls in the fallout of the general elections of this year, amidst calls for a review of the amended Electoral Act of 2022. Let's also find out what plans the 10th Assembly also has for Nigerians. There's been so many calls for reforms of INEC as it is presently constituted, especially on the issue of unbundling this agency. So what's the position so far by your committee?
Well, it's about the position of Nigerians. And we've been working with relevant agencies to sensitize Nigerians to come out with their own suggestions. We had a town hall meeting about a few weeks ago in Sheraton, organized by YAG Africa. And there we expected people to bring their suggestions forward. And we're also planning to have other ones. We tend to move around the 6 geopolitical zones for people to actually contribute to what we are doing. But some of the areas people are already talking about on the unbundling is probably remove voters registration and constituency delineation from INEC and giving it to the NPC, National Population Commission, who are actually in charge of the census. So, and also looking at voters' education too. Probably that could be given to the National Orientation Agency. And there's also call for the creation or establishment of election offences petition and tribunal, so that people who are the election offenders are actually sanctioned and prosecuted by different agencies, so that all this will be removed from the neck of INEC, so that they can also, INEC can now focus purely on election matters. And so these are some of the areas people are already talking about. And we're also looking at a situation where election petitions will be concluded before the swearing in of the winner or presumed winners of the elections. So these are areas we are already looking at, and we want to also reduce the time spent at the tribunals. And because the tribunals are actually overwhelmed, the judges are actually overwhelmed with all these cases.
Yeah, very quickly, let me quickly chip this in. So part of the reforms people are also calling for is the fact that the president should not be the one to appoint the INEC chairman, that should be a sole decision by the Independent National Electoral Commission because of its name, independent. So do you feel that, is the House, is your committee also considering this? And what do you feel about it, about this call?
Like I said, our amendments are going to be based on what Nigerians feel and want. So that we are collating some of these issues, the responses of Nigerians. So we are going to collate based on what they actually want. We are going to move around the country so that opinions are formed and people come together and tell us what they want, so that we'll collate all these ideas. And that's what that's what will actually inform our own position. Because we are the representative of the people. It is not for us to say this is what we want. It is what Nigerians want. And that's our job, is to ensure that we organize the town hall meeting, stakeholders meeting, so interactive sessions for people to hear their views, and we'll collate. And it's a situation of majority having their way. So it is what the majority of the people want that is going to be our own position.
very much, Chairman, House of Representatives Committee on the Independent National Electoral Commission, or simply Electoral Matters. Thank you very much, Honorable Wale Balogun, for speaking. Honorable Bayo Balogun for speaking with us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you for having me.